One of the concerns that we had, the fears that would be associated with moving into the inner city and living in a building, because all of these pastures we've researched to a certain extent, and we understand that there's certain elements that are involved with them, whether it be crime or drugs or things of that nature. And right up before the day that we moved in, that was a concern that we had. Moving our kids into an area where there's greater potential for things like that to happen. Living life sacrificially and knowing there are things that are available to you, making a conscious decision to go without because you want to serve the Lord with what you're doing.
There's maybe 40 buildings, maybe 20,000 people that live there, and I thought we're just a family of 4. What could we do? God showed me a vision, like a picture of an army of believers, and we were shoulder to shoulder. We were really just crying out on behalf of the people there, and he said, there'll be others. And that's something that had really stuck with me. For people considering moving in and they have children, and it really ministers to our children and it strengthens their faith.
You guys doing okay?
Yes. There are days where there are challenges because things are different. They have really come to appreciate the things that are eternal and the things that are temporal. They can separate those two things a lot more than they could before.
How many days make a week? Do you know, Eden?
7.
Good job. And you fall into a routine just like you would normally wherever you're living now.
One story, when we were first, I think the first couple of weeks that we were there, we went down to the park to play some basketball, all 4 of us. And there were some kids riding around on their bikes, and they actually stopped to watch us play basketball. It's not like we were phenomenal basketball players or anything, but just the fact that we were a whole family, a mother, a father, and kids playing together was something that was almost unique to them.
Many times that's how we've been able to meet neighbors, is the children, they gravitate to each other and they start playing. And then before you know it, you get into a conversation with the parents. So it's been really something that God uses the whole family.
The ministry that our kids had, separate of us as a couple, Eden is just amazing how she would just go up to people, especially she'd be able to seek out lonely women and minister to them and just see them just brighten right up just by the interaction and the exchange that they would have. It helps us to see that God is using them for their own ministry as well, and their own giftings that He's blessed them with.
And we do things together. So we do life together, ministry together, church, outreach together, and they experience the gospel in a very practical way.
Things that they don't hear that we hear, things that we smell that they don't smell, and just different things, different influences that are reflective of our community and our building that our kids really, even though they're exposed to them, they're not really affected by it.
The fear isn't there for our children to succumb to those things or to be in harm's way in any way. God is protecting us. He does protect us. But inside of our family, we're just in a different location. But everything else is the same. Their lives are the same. So that's been something that has also surprised us because we did have a lot of fears.
It's been difficult for family to understand exactly what we're doing, especially the house that we were living in. It met their expectations of where they thought we should live, but then when we sold the house and moved into a high needs area, they didn't quite come along for the ride as we thought they would, and they found it really challenging, and they didn't understand why we were doing it. And we sat down and explained to them what the ministry is and what our desire is to do. And even a lot of the stories that we've had in terms of how we've been able to minister to people there, there's still been that sort of disconnect again with our immediate family in terms of this new lifestyle that we're living.
The disconnect from friends that we had in the past. So people that we grew up, our kids grew up together and we did things together, we spent time together. We don't necessarily have those same connections. It is difficult, I think, for some to be exposed to some of the things that are in our neighborhood. And so there's been a sort of a cutting away a little bit of some of the relationships that were really special to us. But on the other hand, there are a lot of relationships that we have room for now where people have really welcomed us with open arms in the patch, and so we've kind of traded some old relationships that kind of have died off and for some new ones that are really strong, and they're so supportive of MoveIn and us being moved in and seeing people saved and supporting us as a family. And so the Lord's really provided even substitutes in a lot of different areas. So it's been a struggle letting go, but it's been good to see how God has restored a lot of that.
And we see a lot of reflection of our old life still around us. And it's difficult for us sometimes to not want to go back and not have desires of what we've had in the past and what we've experienced in the past and what we've come to enjoy in the past. So we had just been moved in and sort of cleaning up the apartment, painting and different things that needed to be done. And I was carting some garbage out to the dumpster, which was in the back of our building. And when I was on my way out, I noticed one of my neighbors who I'd connected with a short time before that. He was moving some stuff from his apartment on the first floor up to the second floor. And I was tired and I was ready to take a nap because I'd already had a long day, but Holy Spirit urged me to say, you'd ask him if he needs some help. And they had a little change table, and we went to pick it up, and he said, well, hold on, let me take some of the stuff out of it. And when he opened one of the drawers, there were 2 Bibles in there. After we finished moving him, we exchanged phone numbers, and I think the following week he texted me and said, I'm trying to study my Bible, but I'm having difficulty understanding it. Can you go over it with me? So he came over and, we did a bit of a Bible study. And then Holy Spirit urged me to go out and buy him a Bible that'd be easier for him to read. So I went to the Christian bookstore and bought him a Bible. Most recently, he sent me a text and he said, I'm going to be baptized. So one thing that was cool is that we got to invest in people's spiritual walk, in their discipleship journey. And that's something we didn't anticipate when we had moved in.
Hang out, get to know each other. A lot of my neighbors where we live are actually gardening in here. It's a great way to meet people.
One day when we first moved in, needing to find a laundromat, and I didn't know where to do laundry, so I started driving around, and I was driving further and further away from the patch, and I felt the Lord say, turn around, you're going the wrong way. So I said, well, where do I go? I had looked online and I couldn't find anything right there. So he just said, just turn around. So I did. And then sure enough, there was this laundromat right just across from where we were living. But I just didn't see it from the road. I had started doing laundry there, and it's just been a place to really meet a lot of people. One girl I met, she was with her baby one day, and she looked like she had about 2 months worth of laundry, and I couldn't understand how she even got there, because there's really no buses that you can even get. She talked about having made a commitment of faith early on in her, our younger years, but has fallen away, and just being able to reinvest into that and get her to see that the Lord is still with her and He still wants that relationship with her. And so that was really amazing how just from a laundromat experience we were able to start ministering to people in a very practical way.
There's just so many of these things that you can get involved in that you're only aware of when you are moved in, more so than you would be if you just came in and did an event or something on the weekend.